Good day, professors. This is Rhea Calado, BSBA MIS, is presenting to you my system proposal entitled Employee Management Portal for Alma Saud Company. Give you a brief overview regarding my proposed system. In the existing system related to employee filing of requests like leave, allowance, and some other HR payments, request forms are available to the office secretary. The request has to be submitted manually to the respective head of department to seek an approval. Following up the manual procedures takes a lot of time and paperwork from office staff and wasting time as well from employees in following up the approval of their immediate superior. Now, having an automated system using centralized database system where the requests like leave, allowance, and other HR payments will ease the filing and approval of the request. It also helps to decrease the accumulated paperwork, easier record maintenance handling, and will reduce also the possible data loss. The proposed system is also able to allow employees and the managers for better scheduling of leave of people, as an example, and do necessary planning or replacements if required by the department. What is the objective of the study? So the general objective of the study is to develop an employee management portal that will automate the whole process of requests that leads to better scheduling and balancing of workforce and increased productivity with less downtime. Thus, the implementation of the existing system is too bulky to accommodate and expedite the process of approval critically for HR department and for keeping of accurate records of employee, which sometimes leads to data loss and encountered errors in the record due to manual recording. Aside from this, the replacement scheduling of employee who apply for leave, as an example, is taking longer to finalize. Furthermore, the production processes are getting disturbed due to people leaving their workplace in order to file for an application. The proposed system has some scope and limitation. What are those? So the proposed system will focus on employees' application request submissions that are related to leave management, leave record, manage leave record balance, produce leave report, and other HR payment like educational allowance, housing allowance, and annual air ticket. So it will also provide personal information, individually details of employees that will allow them to edit and update their existing records or their personal records. In addition, the proposed system can produce reports and summarizes all the requests in different departmental units for further conclusion and crucial decision making of the management. And since the system will only focuses on the modules I have mentioned, it would not provide any room like salary details, has only track the status of the employee request provided on the system. Furthermore, publishing or releasing some company memos or any announcement posted by the organization will also limit to the proposed system. However, the system is open for future upgrade if required by the organization. Having defined the background of the proposed system, I need also to discuss the requirements analysis related to the study, because this is the first stage on the system engineering process and software development process. So requirements analysis, I categorize this into three: feasibility. So number one, the operational feasibility, and then technical feasibility, schedule feasibility, and economic feasibility. So I'm going to discuss the operational feasibility of the proposed system. So operational feasibility, I categorize it into four. So number one, what is the nature of operation and installation of the proposed system? So the users of the system can be easily trained to use a PC. Some technical problems may be encountered will be written by system administrator hired or trained for this purpose. Number two, the user doesn't necessarily have a technical skills and knowledge to use the system. So, and then when it comes to system installation, this is very easy to install. No complex procedures or steps during installations. And then system configuration is also easily available. And then the speed of operations. So what should we need in the speed of operation in the proposed system? So number one, the speed of the internet facility will also be very important factor when determining the needs of access of the system. And then availability of the system to use will depend on the availability of the internet facility. However, in some instances that the system shutdown encountered some errors, allocated temporary repository is available to log the current activity done inside the system. The system will provide real-time information as well. And then, of course, we need to define the security of the system. So the security aspect will have to be strictly restricted because users will only log into the system using their username and password. Authentication of the user will limit the availability of unsecured login. And then number two, for the security of the system administrators, in accordance with the functional policies of the organization, they are in charge to grant the access levels. And then three, since it is platform dependent, the system is very secure and free from any potential viruses. Now, aside from those three, we need to have also the future enhancement for the proposed system. So the system can be updated easily and the users will always experience an up-to-date system. The technical feasibility of the proposed system. So since UAE leads the world in high-speed broadband internet, the proposed system will be developed in web-based completely. It is required to use the web technologies to build the overall system. And then, the server of the system will be installed in isolated server room nearest to the IT group and HR department. For employees who are working in production area, the facility workstations can install inside the pantry or in their canteen area. So it will not cause any disturbance when using the system. They can use the system anytime during their break time or waiting hours. But since the system can be accessible through net and through web, it can anytime in their respective home or anytime away from work through internet connection. Let's go to schedule feasibility. You can see there in the tabulated activities, this is my time-based plan for my proposed system. So number one, we studied about the feasibility, and then the number two stage is the requirement phase, and then number three, the design phase schedule, and then I have also the implementation phase schedule, and the testing, and then last the testing and evaluation, and also for the training for the taking off of the project. So in overall, of course, we need to record all the documents related to the proposed study. How about the economic feasibility of my proposed system? You can see on the tabulated summary my projected costs for the proposed system against existing system. So number one, I categorize it into different criteria or different aspects. So number one, for material and personnel, what are the costs? I have there the hardware and software costs for my proposed system, and also the projected cost in existing system, which is doing their manual procedure using paper calculated in 1 year. You can see there the total. And then the installation cost, of course, for the proposed system, which is not applicable in the existing system right now. And the database administrator that we need, that will maintain our proposed, that will maintain my proposed system, the monthly salary that we're going to hire with the support of the IT personnel, which is also not available with the existing system, and also training for the users, actually if it is required. So for the meantime, as I mentioned, that the system is very easy to use and no complex procedure of the steps or steps that the users will undergo such training. And then maintenance. So once that we purchase the whole system, the first year of installation is free, but the following year it costs around 10,000 dirhams, which is equivalent to the existing system amount that they are using for the manual procedure, like filing cabinet that we need to keep the records of those papers or request forms. So I calculated it per year, and then the others, like in the existing system, the other costs in the existing system, like downtime hours of the employees who go to their office secretary to file for the request, there is an allocated downtime hours there, and the cost of that per year. So overall, it has only a minimal cost in acquiring the system or acquiring the proposed system. There would be less amount for setting up of operating environment needed, as the computer is already in use for other purposes which maintained by IT department and HR. Not only the computer, but some other resources that will establish or related to the setting up of the proposed system are also available. Some of those are available. And the staff is well conversant and familiar with the computer technology, and the system is user friendly and need minimum data entry from the end users. Thus, only minimal training for a user, as the system is easy to use. To summarize, the total cost of system implementation against existing system costs a sum of 25,232 dirhams. The amount less the annual maintenance fees on the first year of installation. For the following year, only cost of maintenance will be charged, and the company overall has a saving total cost of 11,168 per year. So it's better to go with my proposed system. On the concept design of my proposed system, I use the IPO diagram, input process output diagram. So in the input, this is the action in order to create the required output. So what is the action first? Employee can log in using their username and password, and then they will input their necessary requests, or they will input their desired requests. Process. This is the step in creating the outputs. What is the input that we need to process? So first, checking the validity of the request. So they need to check if the request is valid for them. And then after that, once they submit the request, it will go to the head of department to grant an approval. And then after that, which is the output. The output is the outcome or the result of the information wanted to achieve. So what is this? Of course, the employee will receive the status of the request. They can either open their own system to see the status or the notification, or they can, or the notification can be also sent through the registered mobile numbers. As part of the requirement analysis, I have to define the software specification and the hardware specification. Consider the storage specification of the system. Of course, you have to go for some expansions and to resolve the bottleneck if ever the problem encountered. I choose the current available web technologies, which is defined there on the slides, And also I'll go for the model Froliant DL380, which is the world's best-selling server, because it is the world's best-selling server nowadays when it comes to the performance and expandability. It has also a comprehensive warranty, especially here in the UAE, and also it deployed the data center standard. So, and then it will also define there of course the specs, because this is one set altogether for the software specifications, and then the operating system using Windows Server 2012 model. The client to be used for operating system Windows 2012 Server 2012, and the database management system is the Microsoft SQL 2008. So for the hardware specifications, I have here the touchscreen monitor, which is I have discussed with the higher in the hardware specifications. I have here the touchscreen monitor with a higher resolution, plus the standalone to build in the canteen area for the employee use during their break time. Of course, keyboard and mouse. This is only alternative because the monitors is a touch screen. And then printer, if required, they want to print it, has their personal record. And of course, the CPU and the hard disk drive. Of course, the power supply unit and some other cables is defined there. Having discussed the conceptual design of my proposed system, let's go to the system architecture or the system flow of my proposed system. First, I have to define the context diagram of the proposed system. Context diagram inside the system, you can see one of the entities, which is the employee, which can be filed for application leave, and then the system will show the leave file to the employee, and then after that, the head of department, he can check the leave status of the employee, and then he can also, and the granting the permission with the leave confirmation, if it is valid or not. As well, the human resources or the HR has an important role as well inside the system, and the system administration who will maintain the whole system or the whole database. Having defined the context diagram, which is, if you can see on the top view, this is how my proposed system will works. Now the DFD level 1 of the employee management portal system represents the movement of data between external entities, the processes and data stores within a system. Like first, the employee, which is one of the entities, he will input the username or username and password to log into the system for the application request, or he will apply for leave. And then number 3, the leave that they're going to apply, you need to have a approval, which is the granting permission. And then after that, it will update the records, because it will summarize, or it will also deduct if the request was approved. It will deduct on the current leave balance. So we need to update the record. And then after that, after the confirmation, the HR will send the notification to the employee who applied for leave. The informations and the details is stored in the data storage, which is maintained by the system administrator. You can also see on my system flowcharts the step-by-step procedures of how my whole system works. So first, employee will log into the system, and then to check if balance leave request is still valid. If if it is valid, it has to apply for leave or fill the field inside the system. But if it is no, it's not allowed to take any requests. And then after that, it will go to head of department for approval. So the head of department will also decide if the employee request is approved or not. So if it is not approved, it will go to it will send back to the employee. So the notification will send back to employee that the application request is not approved. If yes, it will go to HR department for double checking the request. And then after that, the HR department has also a right to validate the request if it is if it is valid or not. So if it is rejected on the HR department, the notification will send back to the employee as well. But if the request is valid, so it will deduct the request from the previous record, and then it will update the records of the employee. So that's how the system works. And this is my ERD, entity relationship diagram. In this, you can find my database design. And also, I have to identify the entities of my database in here, and to determine all the interactions between my entities. For example, let me consider the user table. So under user table, you can find the attributes, which are the username, the password, first name, last name, because these are the informations needed by the users to input in my database or in my proposed system. And then you can I also determine there the foreign key and the primary key, which enforcing the relationship between those entities. I'll be moving now to development and testing of my proposed system. Here I have to define the different stages how my system will work. First, upon reviewing those different kinds of methodology or different kinds of approach that needed to test the functionality of the proposed system, I found out that the incremental method or the incremental approach is the one suitable for my proposed system based on my specification and requirements I have defined. This method is passes through different stages or phases of development. First, the requirement analysis, and then second, the system design, and then third, the implementation or the coding, and then fourth, testing and development. The first stage in software and testing development is the requirement analysis. Previously, I have defined the hardware and software specification. There are some other technical details that need to be defined in order my proposed system works. So, number one, the MVC architecture, and then my SQL triggers implementation, MD5 encryption, and system installation. So what is this MVC? MVC stands for models, view, and controllers. Models are the representation of my data, which is created through HTML, which is the web page structure. And then views, this is my user interface. The model has the data created, it will display on the views. It's created through CSS language. And then after that, the controllers. These controllers provides model data to view. So this is in order to view the models, in order to view the data, I mean the model data, we need to have a browser. So a browser, it can be the Firefox, Chrome, Internet Explorer, or Mozilla. So this MVC will be the one of the design pattern that I should define for my software requirements. And then the second one is my SQL triggers implementation. So what is this? This is the automatic execution of data during query, insert, update, and delete. So meaning to say, a trigger can be defined to be invoked either before or after the data is changed. And after that, the MD5 encryption. This algorithm is used for password encryptions. MD5 stands for Message Digest Algorithm 5. Then after that, the system installation. My system is developed and can be tested on a computer running Windows. And the HP Froliant ML expansion optimized will serve as my servers. So in order for the web application to be accessible via the internet, it will have to be installed on the web server. And then the web application will be accessible via web browsers. So meaning to say, the system installation of my proposed system will be installed in the running Windows. The second stage is the system design. Here, I have to illustrate the step-by-step development of the system. It is preferable to create a use case analysis. In order to create relevant use case for my proposed employee management portal, the following characters have been identified. First, the employee, and then the head of department, the human resources, and the admin. I have here an illustration of the use case diagram. For example, I have there the character for employee. It defines there the different activities of my employee inside the system. For example, the employee can edit profile, can apply for leave, can view the task, and to check also the history request. And then there is an optional extension for the functionality of the system. Example, they can also reset the password as an extension or added functionality to the system. The third stage is the coding of software. In order for the programmers understand the system design requirements, pseudocode is used to describe the outline and summarizes a program's flow in order to achieve the required result of a program or database. Here an example of the pseudocode, which is the login into the system and then add new user and apply for requests. But this pseudocode is not a formal programming language. This is only a outline to know what is the requirements of my proposed system. The last stage is the testing and verification. There are three processes needed to test the functionality of the system. First, you have to go with confirmation testing, and then the regression testing, and the test plans and results. First, what is the confirmation testing that needs to be done to the proposed system? The confirmation testing, this is to ensure that the individual modules work well together. In case there is a test fails in the existing software, new versions of software will be added, and then it has to retest or re-execute again to confirm whether the new version of the software is working properly. Now, in regression testing, this test is done following the confirmation testing, enabled to verify the modification in the software have not caused any adverse side effects and the system still meets its requirements. And then the last one is the test plans and result. This test is derived accordingly per requirements or per functional specification. So the test plan identifies the details of the test and identifying the associated test case within the product or within the system. For example, if you test the login, it should be the login, the system should check the correct username and password. So the expected condition there, if the user details are not correct, it will display error message. And then the outcome, if the login entered correct username and password, the expected outcome will be granting the access, granting permission to open the main system. And then the same with add new user. And then if there is a new employee added, the system will say that the information, it says that it is successfully added. It may also find in the slides my system prototype, like for example the user login, screen for new requests, and screen for checking of balance leave, and some important reports like employee list summary, individual employee profile, and the employee safety form. In conclusion, the main purpose of creating the employee management portal is to provide faster employee services and online access to various information of the employee with proper security mechanism, and also to provide faster notification requests and important notices within the organization, to provide flexibility and fast decision making within the management, also to have a high performing organization because of the technology effectiveness, and finally to minimize redundant work in HR and other departments, since the proposed system, the EMP, will aim to overcome the problem of employee and the management in managing and planning their daily activities. Thank you, professors, and good day.